Welcome to the deep dive. I actually want to start today with a bit of a confession.
Oh boy. Am I going to need to brace myself for this?
Yeah, you probably should. So, not too long ago, I was drafting this highly sensitive email to the entire department at work.
Okay. High stakes.
Exactly.
Hmm.
I had the tone perfect, the data was totally solid, and I was just about to hit send when my finger just froze right over the keyboard.
Wait, what happened?
I was staring at the word every day, and suddenly, this massive wave of panic hit me. Should it be one word? Should it be two words?
Oh no, I am laughing, but I feel your pain so much right now.
I just sat there in this dead, awkward silence. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. I was literally wishing the floor would just open up and swallow me over a simple spacebar decision.
It is the absolute worst feeling.
Right. And I bet you listening have done this too. If you have ever experienced that kind of linguistic paralysis, whether it is agonizing over every day or you freeze mid-sentence because you aren't sure if you should say each hand or every hand, do not worry. We are going to fix this for you right now.
We really are. And it is an incredibly common experience, even for native speakers. You are dealing with some of the most persistent traps in the English language here.
They just look so similar.
They look alike, they sound alike, and they frequently overlap in their core meaning. It is very easy to feel like you are navigating a minefield when you just want to write a basic team update.
Well, that is precisely our mission for this deep dive. We are going to decode three of the most commonly confused yet absolutely essential words in English. Each, every, and all.
The big three.
The big three. And we have gathered a phenomenal stack of resources for you today. We are pulling transcripts, guides, and insights from some of the top English educators out there.
We've got material from English, Oxford English Now, and BBC Learning English.
Plus, Learn English, J. Forest English, and English Class 101. By the time we finish this analysis, you're going to know exactly how to navigate these subtle grammar variations with complete confidence.
It really comes down to understanding the mental image these words project. Grammar is rarely just some arbitrary set of rules to memorize from a textbook.
Right.
It is a tool. It shapes how the listener visualizes the information you are presenting. Once you understand the psychology of these specific words, selecting the right one stops feeling like a pop quiz and starts feeling like intuition.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the absolute baseline. On paper, each and every scene like identical twins because they share a very strict grammatical limitation.
I do.
They both have to be paired with singular nouns. And I always find this counterintuitive because I'm usually using these words to talk about a really large group of things.
Exactly.
So why does the grammar source a singular noun?
That tension right there between the plural reality and the singular grammar, that is where the confusion begins for so many people.
Yeah.
You are referring to a room full of people, but you are required to say each student or every student. You never write every student.
Never.
The Minglish source actually gives us a brilliant way to visualize why the language demands this. Imagine you are hosting this massive dinner party with dozens of guests.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
If you look at the table and say each person brought a dish, the camera in your mind is panning around the room, focusing entirely on the individuals.
Like taking it one by one.
Yes. You are noticing that he brought a salad, she brought a dessert, the guy in the corner brought a cheese platter. The word each puts a tight spotlight firmly on the individual, isolating them.
So if I am at that exact same dinner party, but I change my sentence to, every person brought a dish, the amount of food on the table hasn't actually changed.
Not at all.
Does the camera angle shift the message then?
It shifts the perspective completely. Suddenly, the camera pulls way back. You are no longer looking at the specific salad or the specific dessert. You are looking at the entire group lumped together as a whole.
Interesting.
You are essentially telling your listener, look at this collective group of people. As a single unified unit, they all brought food.
I see how that changes the tone. In an everyday conversation, the practical outcome is the same. There is a lot of food at the party, but the vibe I'm projecting into the listener's head is entirely different.
What's fascinating here is the psychology behind the grammar. The word every functions as a synonym for the word all, but English grammar treats every as a single unit. It acts almost like a compound noun.
Like it groups them into one box.
Exactly. When you declare that every student wrote the test, you take an entire class of 30 distinct individuals, you draw a giant circle around them, and you treat that circle as one single entity. That is the fundamental reason why the noun student must remain singular and why the verb that follows it has to be singular too. The grammatical structure is just a direct reflection of that group as one mentality.
That is a total game changer to think about it that way. Each is the close-up shot isolating the individual, and every is the wide-angle group shot.
You nailed it.
But there has to be a structural limitation when we drop down to a really specific quantity. Does this wide-angle versus close-up choice always apply, no matter how many items we have?
Actually, no. There is a strict limitation, and this is where the interchangeability completely vanishes. It is known as the rule of two.
The rule is 2.
If you are talking about exactly two things or two people, you are entirely forbidden from using the word every. The grammar absolutely demands that you use each.
Oh, I imagine this comes up a lot with anatomy.
Constantly. Think about the human body. You have a shoe on each foot. You have an earring in each ear. You carry a bag in each hand.
Right.
If you were to say to a colleague, I have a shoe on every foot, the cognitive dissonance is immediate. It sounds incredibly bizarre.
Because I only have 2 feet.
Right.
Unless I'm a spider, I guess.
Exactly.
So if I mess that up in a different context, say talking about sports, the Learn English source brought up a football match. If I accidentally say every team have 11 players instead of each team has 11 players, am I fundamentally changing the scope of what I'm saying?
You are. If you say every team, you are no longer talking about the single game happening on the field right in front of you.
Oh, wow.
You are suddenly making this sweeping statement about the entire global league of football teams. Every requires a larger collective to lump together. Two items simply don't give the word every enough raw material to function.
That makes so much sense. Each specifically handles that binary setup, Team A versus Team B, or left foot versus right foot.
Precisely.
Let me throw a quick quiz at you then. A pattern interrupt. What happens when we cross that threshold into 3 or more? Say we look at my fingers instead of my hands. I have 10 of those. Am I allowed to use every Izzy?
You absolutely are. Once you hit 3 or more items, the rigid rules relax significantly. Because you have 10 fingers, you can say, she has a ring on each finger to emphasize the individual pieces of jewelry.
Or I could say she has a ring on every finger.
Yeah. Yes. And that emphasizes the heavily decorated hand as a whole. Both are perfectly grammatical.
But what if I am backed into a corner in a piece of technical writing? Say, I absolutely have to use a plural noun like computers just to be crystal clear. Am I just stuck breaking that singular rule we established earlier?
Not at all. And here's a mental shortcut they don't usually teach you in basic textbooks. There is a very elegant grammatical bridge you can use, which the sources call the of exception.
The of exception.
Right. As we know, you cannot write each computers. That breaks the core singular rule. However, if you insert the word of in an article like the, it resolves the tension perfectly. You can write each of the computers crash.
Each of the computers. Each of the children. That feels incredibly useful.
It is a native secret, honestly. By adding of the, you explicitly acknowledge the plural group first, the network of computers, the classroom of children, and then you strategically apply the singular each to pull individuals out of that larger pool.
I'm mind blown right now.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is incredible how the English language subconsciously forces us, as speakers, to constantly calculate quantities and boundaries before we even finish a sentence.
Yeah, you don't even realize you're doing it.
Before you even vocalize the word team or foot, your brain has to perform this microsecond math check. Are there exactly 2 of these? Or more than 2? Your entire choice of vocabulary pivots based on that invisible calculation.
We are just categorizing the world in real time. And speaking of categorizing, I noticed in the BBC Learning English source that these words behave very differently when they're left all by themselves in a sentence. How does that standalone test work?
It involves how these words function as pronouns. Each is highly independent. It has the grammatical strength to stand entirely on its own.
Okay.
The BBC provided a great scenario for this. Imagine looking at a really nice bakery display. You can say, look at those cakes, I want a slice of each. You don't need to specify each cake. The word each absorbs the context and does all the heavy lifting for you.
Does everyone have that same independence?
It does not. Every is completely dependent. You cannot look at that same tray of cakes and say, I want a slice of every.
Yeah, that sounds like you just forgot the rest of your sentence.
The sentence just falls off a cliff. The listener is left waiting for the rest of the thought. Every demands a partner noun to function.
Which brings us to its most famous partner, the word one. Everyone.
Yes.
And this loops right back to the embarrassing email story I shared at the very beginning. This spelling variation trips up professionals all the time. Is everyone spelled as a single combined word or as 2 separate words? Everyone.
This is a classic pitfall, and the difference in meaning is actually quite profound, even though it hangs entirely on a single tap of the spacebar. But I have another native secret for you here, a shortcut, so you never get it wrong again.
I would love a shortcut to this. Let's fix this for everyone listening.
The English source recommends that everybody swap. Let's say you are writing an email to your team. You want to know if you should combine everyone into one word. The test is simple. Swap the word out for everybody. If you can say everybody and the sentence still makes perfect logical sense, then you smash it together into one word.
Let me test that. So if I am writing, I want to thank everyone for attending the presentation. I can seamlessly change that to, I want to thank everybody for attending the presentation. It sounds completely natural.
Nailed it.
So that is one word.
Exactly. In that scenario, you are addressing the group as a collective whole. But let's try a pattern interrupt here. Let's say a manager asks you, have you reviewed all the financial documents in this folder? And you want to assure them that you've looked at them individually. You want to reply, yes, I have read every one. Try the everybody swap on that sentence.
Okay, swapping it out. Yes, I have read everybody.
Oh.
Oh, wait, really? I see. That sounds completely ridiculous.
It makes absolutely no sense. Therefore, it must be two separate words. Every space, one. When you separate them, you are intentionally slowing the reader down. You are forcing them to look at every single one of the items. It pushes the word every away from its collective amorphous group identity and pulls it much closer to the highly individual meaning of each.
So a director might say to their cast, I am so proud of every one of you, using the two-word version to make each actor feel individually recognized, rather than just praising the cast as a big blob.
You get it perfectly. The spacebar essentially acts as a magnifying glass.
That is a brilliant trick, the everybody swap. Now, we have been focusing heavily on physical groups and quantities so far, but how do these rules hold up when we apply them to something totally abstract, like time and habits?
That's a great transition.
If I go to the gym, do I go each day or every day?
When it comes to frequency, every time is the undisputed champion. If you are describing how often an event occurs, every is your primary tool. The bus arrives every 20 minutes. You submit a report every Friday.
Could I technically say each day? Like I drink a cup of coffee each day?
Technically, it is not grammatically incorrect. But to a native ear, it sounds quite stiff and overly formal. English speakers naturally gravitate toward every for time and frequency.
Why is that?
Because habits are viewed as a continuous looping group of events, rather than isolated individual incidents.
This brings us right back to the spacebar trap from the English Class 101 source. Because if every day is our champion for frequency, what happens when we accidentally mash it together into a single word? Exactly like I almost did in my email.
This is a fantastic distinction to make because even experienced writers make this error. When you combine them into one word every day, it completely changes its grammatical function.
It's not about time anymore.
Right. It transforms into an adjective. It is about describing something as common, ordinary, or routine.
Like our American Casual Fridays. I might wear my everyday jeans.
Yes, your everyday jeans, meaning your normal, casual jeans. Not that you literally wear them 7 days a week. Or you might have an everyday task, meaning a routine chore.
Okay, so I use the single word every day to describe a noun. But I use the two-word version every day to describe how often I perform an action.
Precisely. If you write, I wear these shoes every day, as one combined word, you are essentially telling your reader, I wear these shoes normal, which is grammatical nonsense. You need the space to indicate time.
That is a lifesaver of a distinction. Honestly, that just saved me from my next panic attack at the keyboard. Now, we have spent a lot of time exploring the binary relationship between each and every. But the English Class 101 source introduces another heavyweight into the conversation.
The word all.
Yes, all. It seems to step directly on everybody's toes.
It really does. All is the ultimate expression of totality. It means exactly 100% of a given quantity. And structurally, it behaves fundamentally differently from every.
How so?
Well, while every forces you to use a singular noun like every student, the word all fully embraces the plural. You say all students.
So if a university administration puts out a policy stating all students must purchase the new textbook versus every student must purchase the new textbook, are they communicating something fundamentally different, or is it just a stylistic choice at that point?
It really goes back to the director's camera angle we discussed earlier. All students is looking at the entire mass of humanity enrolled at that institution. It is the most zoomed out macroscopic view possible. It treats the student body as a vast ocean.
And every student.
Every student zooms in just a fraction. It reminds the reader that this massive group is actually composed of individual parts who each have a responsibility to go down to the bookstore.
Ah, I see.
In legal or technical writing, all is often preferred because it leaves zero ambiguity about the 100% totality of the statement.
And there's a tiny modifier that often tags along with all that completely changes the scope of the sentence. The source used a pretty striking example to illustrate this, involving gorillas escaping from a zoo.
It is a dramatic example, but it highlights the logical difference perfectly. If you make the statement, all gorillas eat plants, you are making a general scientific declaration about 100% of the gorilla species on planet Earth.
But if I add the word "the" and say all the gorillas escaped, I am no longer talking about global biology.
Exactly. When you add the making it all the gorillas, you are suddenly being hyper-specific. You are referring to a bounded group of gorillas that the listener already has context for, the ones at the local zoo.
The word "the" does a lot of heavy lifting there.
It does. The article, "the" acts like a laser pointer. It narrows that 100% totality down to a specific, shared knowledge between the speaker and the listener.
That applies perfectly to an office setting, too. If my IT guy says all files, he means every file in existence. But if he says all the files were deleted, he means specifically the ones on my hard drive. It establishes the boundaries of the disaster.
Yes. It defines the parameters of the group before applying the 100% rule to it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We have established these two distinct camera angles, the hyper-individual focus of each and the sweeping group focus of every. What happens when we take those two opposing concepts and smash them together into a single phrase?
You produce one of the most common and most emphatic fixed expressions in spoken English, each and every.
I hear this constantly. I want to thank each and every one of you for your hard work. You hear it at awards ceremonies. You hear it in political speeches. Managers use it to motivate their teams.
And grammatically, it is a fascinating paradox. You are taking the tight, isolating spotlight of each, and you are welding it directly to the massive, wide-angle lens of every.
It's like a contradiction that somehow works perfectly.
Exactly. You are demanding that the listener recognize the sheer vastness of the whole group, while simultaneously demanding that they acknowledge the absolute importance of every single individual within it.
It is the ultimate rhetorical emphasis. You are literally telling the audience, I see all of you as a massive collective, and I see you as distinct, valuable individuals at the exact same time.
Right.
J. Forrest English pointed out that saying, each and every student passed the rigorous exam sounds significantly more triumphant than just stating every student passed.
Because it leaves no one behind in the narrative. It elevates the individual achievement to the same level as the group's success. It is an incredibly powerful tool for building morale and connection.
So what does this all mean for you listening to us right now? It means that mastering English grammar isn't just about memorizing arbitrary lists of singular and plural noun pairings so you can pass a test. You are actively choosing how to project an image into someone else's mind. You are the director of the mental movie.
You are entirely in control of directing their focus.
Let's do a quick recap of the tools you now have in your director's toolkit. When you want the tight close-up on the individual parts, you use each person.
Check.
When you want the wide-angle shot of the group acting as one cohesive unit, you use every person.
Got it.
When you are dealing with exactly two things, your hands are tied. The rule of two demands each, a shoe on each foot. And when you want the massive drone shot view of absolute 100% totality, you bring in all with a plural noun, all the files. I hope this gives you a massive confidence boost today. You can go into your next meeting or write your next department-wide email without ever second-guessing that spacebar again. You can speak English right now without fear.
This raises an important question, though.
Oh, what's that?
When you look at how strictly our grammar dictates these perspectives, you have to wonder about the broader cognitive impact. If our language is so rigidly divided between absolute binary choices, like being structurally forced to use each for exactly two things,
Yep.
and these wide-open, encompassing groups like every and all for three or more, how much does that linguistic framework shape how we actually view the world around us?
Wow. That is a deep well to look down.
Right. Do we naturally perceive the world in absolute binaries simply because Our language literally forces us to categorize quantities that way before we can even vocalize a thought. Does the very structure of English make us more prone to seeing us versus them, or left versus right, simply because the rule of two is hardwired into the syntax of our daily communication?
Are we wielding the language, or is the language subtly shaping us? That is a fascinating thought to leave on, something for you to mull over the next time you put a shoe on each foot. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the hidden mechanics of English. We hope you feel a little more confident and a lot more curious about the words you use every day, with a space. We will be right back here next time, ready to explore something new. Until then, keep analyzing, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.